Hello everyone, Thunderbolt 1000 Productions here. Yes, now's the time. Time for me to answer your silly questions. You should know the drill by now, but if you don't, all questions will be from the announcement video I made earlier, and there was a little bit less than last time, only 356 comments, but even so, not everyone will be featured due to time, repeats, etc. So if you make it, that's great. If not, there's always next time. Also, I do apologize if I mispronounce your username or name in general. Let's just jump right into this because I want to get through this as fast as possible. But before we jump into it, some of the questions you asked can actually be answered via this interview I had with the Creator Show podcast. Go check it out if you haven't.
Right, let's go.
Okay, our first question comes from Captain PJ, who asks, will you document Metra commuter rail before they start using the new cab cars that don't allow the passengers to look up front? Hopefully in due time. Will you cover the Naperville, Illinois train disaster of 1946? I'll put a pin on it. Will you cover more smaller train accidents, such as the Goodwill, Oklahoma train wreck, the Texarkana train explosion, and the accident of Mary T. Waltigila? I probably mispronounced that. Yes, definitely. That's kind of why I made the Baltimore, Ohio Museum collapse incident. I mean, yeah, they're not as well known as other stories, but it's always good to shine some lights on, some of the lesser known, less severe incidents in railroad history, if you kind of get what I mean. Random Roblox Magician asks, what other train crashes will you be covering? Probably incidents like the Frankfurt Junction incident of 1943, and I know I'm going to be doing the Lewisham incident of 1857, since I kind of hinted at it in the other one. What is your favorite EMD locomotive? Either the GP7 or the GP9. GP10s count too, even though they're rebuilds. Do you want to work for a railroad in the future? I actually already work at one and volunteer on another one. I work at the New Hope Railroad out in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and I also volunteer in my free time at Colbertdale in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, as well as Berks County, but whatever. It's only 20 minutes away, and it gives me something to do during my free time, you know what I mean? Quandilius Barnacle Dignalnut III asks, what is your favorite part of Runaway Train? I have a couple, that's honestly my favorite movie of all time, and I have a lot of favorable moments. I could pretty much quote the whole movie if I wanted to. But if I had to choose a favorite, it'd definitely be the Itty Bitty Spot monologue by John Voight. Whenever I was in like public speaking or acting classes in college or high school, and we had to do like a movie monologue as one of our speeches or acts or whatever, that was my go-to scene. And it's both funny and it's also really grounded in reality. That's why he's such a memorable scene in my opinion. So yeah. AJ asks, favorite candy? Either Starburst or recently Haichu. 200 dude asks, what do you think is your favorite train crash video? I assume you mean my favorite documentary. That would have to be the Chase Maryland remaster that I did. I'll explain why later. Icky Zackattack asks, have you seen any heritage units in your life? I've seen all of the Norfolk Southern heritage units. I've seen a couple of the Amtrak ones, namely 145, because it, was one of the first locomotives to be ACIS cleared for the Keystone Corridor. I've seen 2 Union Pacifics, funny enough, 1995 and 1988, the Caddy unit. And I've seen at least 1 New Jersey Transit heritage unit, the Erie-Lackawanna one. If you want to count the CSX sticker units, the Seaboard and Western Maryland sticker units, those are the only really ones I know about that I've seen. And believe it or not, I've seen 1 Canadian National Heritage unit, the Grand Trunk one, of all things. So yeah, I've seen quite a bit. Rail Lash Up Productions asks, what is your favorite Fallen Flag Railroad besides the Pennsylvania Railroad? Well, that would be the Reading Railroad, because they were pretty much all over the place in my home area before I was even born. What is your favorite Thomas and Friends character? that would have to be James. Bit of a spirit animal of mine. I kind of relate to him growing up, and he has that rockin' theme in the classic series. Not to mention, I realized just recently, thanks to a video from Unlucky Tug, his character remained quite consistent throughout the Railway series, Model series, and into the CGI series. The only other character I know of to be so consistent is Gordon. What is your favorite NJT Heritage unit? Believe it or not, it is not the Penzi unit, the 4636, mainly because of how sloppy they executed that engine.
The stripes don't even line up from the front to the sides.
But if I had to choose a favorite, it is actually the 4109, the CNJ unit, mainly because the locomotive is wearing pretty much the exact same livery it wore when it was first delivered to the Central Railroad of New Jersey, which is really cool when you think about it. Daniel the Rail Fan asks, if you had the ability to restore one locomotive from any railroad, what one would it be? I don't know, maybe the Long Island 39 getting its restoration restarted at Strasburg, I don't know. Owens Rail Fanning Productions asks, what are your goals for 2023? At least getting close or reaching 150,000 subscribers. Not shooting too far yet. 200,000 is definitely overshooting what I think is capable, but 150? It probably could be done. Griffin Rails asks, what is the worst train ride of your life? I haven't had that many bad rides, at least to my knowledge or memory, but I do remember this one incident I had on SEPTA where we were on the batch of Silverliner 5s heading toward Temple University via North Broad. I think we were on the Warmester line, I don't know, going toward the city. I was a bit snoozing a little bit in the lead Souliner 5 when all of a sudden out of nowhere, bang, hiss, brake squeal. We come to a screeching halt. I nearly cracked my head open on the seat in front of me from the sudden stop, and I was like, what the hell was that? Turned out, I looked toward the front window right by the door because, I was sitting near the front of the train. I looked, we had an approach signal of some sort, and I put two and two together. The PTC had activated and slammed the train into an emergency stop because he was going a little bit too fast toward the signal. Boy, was that one heck of a surprise. I mean, I don't remember too much about the incident. It was a couple of years ago, but it's stuck in my mind ever since. If you were to close down any railroad line, what would it be? I wouldn't really close any railroad right now, as far as I know. Nothing, that I can think of. Do you like One Shot? Don't know, never heard of it. Juju4876 asks, what are your opinions on the Denver and Rio Grande Western and ATSF? Well, the Santa Fe is actually one of my favorite Western railroads of all time. Denver and Rio Grande Western is still pretty cool, but I kind of prefer Santa Fe because, well... Santa Fe, all the way! What is your favorite soda? Either Fanta or Sprite. I don't really drink that much soda because it really messes up my system, making me burp a lot more than normal. Like, really, really bad to the point it hurts. But when I do drink soda, it's one of those two. Diego asks, have you seen the 1225 Pere Marquette, aka the Polar Express? Nope, not yet. UP8025 Productions asks, what is your favorite locomotive? Gears365 asks the same question as well. Well, it's a no-brainer. It's the Pennsylvania Railroad K4 Pacific. Addison asks, do you like Owl House and Ampabina? I haven't heard that much about Ampabina. I've glanced, images of it every so often. It seems like an alright show, I guess. Owl House, though, I've seen the entirety of both seasons so far, and it's alright, I guess. But one thing is for certain about the show, King is the best character of all time, and we must protect that innocent being at all costs from this cruel world that we live in. We must protect the King of Cuteness. Pennsylvania Railroad 6755 asks, favorite steam locomotive? Well, I already answered this earlier with the Pennsylvania Railroad K4, but another favorite of mine is the Reading T1 Northern. Akio Kuami asks, out of all the documentaries you've done, which was the most interesting to research and or talk about based on the scale of the wreck or the reasons leading up to it? That would be a tie between the Chase Maryland remaster and the Lac-Mégantic remaster. The Chase Maryland one because it's honestly, the incident has been one of the most interesting and fascinating out of any other train wreck I've heard of. And I find new information about it almost every day. And a lot of the new footage I found, like the interview about random drug and alcohol testing being implemented on railroads with Ricky Lynn Gates, and even Edward Butch Cromwell testifying about it, was a huge surprise. I was like, wow, this is some good stuff. And it was a lot of fun from a production standpoint, putting the video back together and revisiting the incident. As for Lac-Mégantic, that was a job and a half, and originally that was supposed to be saved for, this year, for July 6, 2023. But upon railroads across the Class 1 railroads wanting to implement one-man crews, or in UP's case, ground-based controllers, I thought, you know what? Screw it. We're going to release this half documentary, half PSA early by 1 year. So I released it on the 9th anniversary, not the 10th. And a lot of people have said, as a result, I must have foreshadowed the East Palestine incident with NS. I mean, they're both different in many different ways, but, the similarities are there. But yeah, those two in particular. PensyFan19 asks, what is your favorite tourist railroad? That would be the Reading and Northern. Yeah, they're more of a freight company with excursions being a side business, but I'm going to be counting them anyway because I want to. Do you think SEPTA should acquire dual-mode ALP-45s or Siemens Chargers for restoring diesel service? Probably not. I mean, I don't think SEPTA would really consider that in the first place, but if they did, the LP-45 DP would be not a bad idea. Are you considering making another Engines of series after SEPTA? Oh, definitely, so stay tuned. Jordan Fernando Ortiz asks, do you like the Sonic the Hedgehog games? I have a good interest in Sonic. Steam is King Productions asks, what is your favorite railroading song? Either the Pennsylvania Railroad's Don't Stand Me Still, or however the melody goes, or We Rode on the Reading when the Reading rode again. I swear, that is the one railroading song I can never get out of my head. Most hardest train wreck blah 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 years later video. I feel like the older the incident I talk about, the harder it gets in terms of, research and putting the video together in general. Favorite game besides Train Z? I have a couple of favorites, not glowing endorsements, but some of these include War Thunder, World of Warships, and Unturned, of all things. The Long Island Rail fan asks, what extinct steam locomotive would you save from the Scrapper's Torch? Definitely the Reading G-Class Pacifics of any type, Crusader included. If you were to restore a static steam locomotive, not the ones currently awaiting or under restoration, to operating condition, what would it be? Probably the B&O William Mason. I know, interesting choice. But mainly because at the time it was the oldest operational steam locomotive in the country at the time, or at least to my knowledge. But thanks to a recent 1472, they were forced to take out of service, so now it's just the static display, which is a real shame. But yeah, that'd be one of them. What steam locomotive do you plan to see this year? Definitely East Broad Top 15, or no, it's 16, excuse me. First time I ever get those two mixed up. Adventures of Amtrak Cascades asks, what is your favorite train you've captured or filmed right now as of me typing this? Probably the second Coal Drag 2102 did. That was a lot of fun chasing it, and it was actually pretty straightforward. It wasn't that hard, and it also wasn't that crowded either. Chris XD asks, does New Hope have any plans for 1533? As far as I know, no. What can we expect when can we expect the USRA number 9 episode of Engines of New Hope to come out? Well, it's actually New Hope Profiles, but I'm kind of waiting until SMS restores it to full operational condition. They're almost there, so the wait shouldn't be that much longer. Where's the farthest you've been outside of Pennsylvania? If you want to talk about going south, then that would be to Cumberland and Frostburg, Maryland, to go after the Western Maryland Scenic Railway. And if you want to talk about going north, Well, the New York, going to New York to the Hudson River line. Liam Baskin asks, what is your favorite Amtrak locomotive? It's probably going to be an obvious choice. That'd be the GG1. Because, well, if they could do... A lot of old Amtrak hands have told me that was the best locomotive they ever had because it could literally do anything. The only thing that killed it was age. What are your thoughts on Amtrak as a railroad and company? Well, just like a lot of Class 1 railroads, Norfolk Southern included, they have great people working for them. You know, they have some of the friendliest crews I know of. But in terms of higher-ups and how the company is run, garbage. What is your favorite locomotive running on the Strasburg Railroad? That'd be 90. You can't go wrong with 90. Harrison La Time Traveler asks, do you like any other anime shows besides Girls und Panzer? Well, while Girls und Panzer is still my favorite anime of all time, I have been getting into other animes that my girlfriend showed off to me. Demon Slayer is one of them, even though this orange-haired kid can get tolerable for only so long. And My Hero Academia, funny enough. Because, you know, the story is interesting, and it's got some interesting characters. Especially Froppy. What would you like to see coming out of Amtrak's upcoming long-distance fleet acquisition? I don't really know. I haven't heard too much about it, so I can't really say anything. Will you visit Grand Central at Madison? I might. I've already visited the new Wawa station on the Media Elwyn, or excuse me, the Media Wawa line, so I might visit the new Grand Central Madison station at some point. Railfan Garrett asks, have you ever considered doing vlog-type videos? I actually did film something like that when going out to the Western Maryland, doing like a little vlog video, kind of like the behind the scenes of one of my Railfan trips. So let me guys know if you think that'd be an interesting video you'd like to see. Maybe it might be an exclusive for the patrons. I don't know. Athearn or scale trains? I've used both, but I have more experience with Athearn, so Thoughts of the new Amtrak Aero train sets coming in the next few years? I hate them. They're a big waste of money. And they're just not practical, in my opinion. Pigeons X asks, what is your most favorite Norfolk and Western locomotive? Now, I'm sure you're going to think I'm going to say the Norfolk and Western J's, but no. I'm going to go with the A's. A lot more interesting history behind them. Fresno Subber asks, tank? I don't know, KV2? Don't think I've seen you mention anything about alternate fuel for locomotives. Opinions on them? Not too positive about them. But at least they're better than battery electric locomotives. Ugh. Favorite cowl unit? I don't know, the FP or F45s. They're interesting. Nickelplate 757 Railfan asks, what do you mean there's only soup? It means there's only soup. So get out of the soup aisle. I don't care if there's more soup. Just go into the next aisle. Will you ever come to see 765? Eventually at some point. Especially if it ever returns to the Norfolk Southern Lehigh line. Which will probably be never. But you never know. Favorite Lionel post-war locomotive? Probably their GG1s. Honor Cyclone Tracker asks, what rail crashes have occurred from a hurricane? The only one I can think of is, I believe it was in Danville, PA. I'll throw a text box if I got the location wrong. It was where Hurricane Agnes back in 1972 caused a Penn Central freight to plunge into the river. I noticed that incident when I was putting together the Penn Central video I'm putting together, which has been on hold due to budgetary issues. But, yeah, let me guys know if you'd like to see that in documentary form, rec documentary form, that is. Gulf Breeze Entertainment asks, what is your favorite Western fallen flag? It's a tie between Southern Pacific and Santa Fe. But if I had to choose one...
Santa Fe, all the way.
It's fun to ride the train.
Santa Fe.
Speaking of that commercial, look at the profile pic. Oak Rail asks, favorite animated shows? I've watched a ton, I mean a metric ton of animated shows. But the two in particular that I remember fondly are Phineas and Ferb and Gravity Falls. Especially considering my dad was pretty interested in both of those shows as well, namely Phineas and Ferb for that British aspect around that show. And trust me, when a Disney show aimed at kids manages to make a 60-year-old grumpy Englishman laugh, they are doing something right. Shaun the Sheep is up there as well, along with a bunch of other British animated shows I grew up with. What's one locomotive you'd want in HO but is too obscure to be made? I don't know, maybe some of the lesser known Reading steam like the Mallets and stuff like that. I haven't seen too many of those yet. But I will tell you, one of the hardest model locomotives I've yet to get my hands on are some of the Silverliners, both 2 through 5. Because, it's hard to find them in general, and when you do find them, they're either in poor condition or they're being asked for astronomical prices. Like, what the actual hell? It's annoying. Has YouTube affected your personal life by any chance? To be honest, not really. I mean, I have gotten noticed a lot more often at, like, rail fan events and stuff like that, which is going to be a given, to be honest. But, I do remember one occasion I was at a Sky Zone out in Oaks, PA, which is, a suburb in the middle of nowhere in southeast PA, and someone that went to the same middle school I went to at one point recognized me in that Sky Zone just from my voice alone talking with my girlfriend, and I was like, well, that was interesting. That was the last place I ever expected to get recognized for my channel, but you never know. But other than that, nah, not really. Pepsi fan 666 asks, if you were the president of Amtrak, what services would you restart and changes you'd make to the company? Well, I get all the governmental bureaucracy out of the frickin' loop, because that's what's been running these companies into the ground in the first place, all these Class 1s, especially Amtrak, even though they're technically not one, but whatever. But the services I'd bring back are namely either the Broadway or the Three Rivers. I mean, yeah, their main contract was mail, that's what kept them alive, but they were the only trains that I knew of that connected New York and Philly directly to Chicago, and it would also help with the rail situation between Harrisburg and Pittsburgh. First of all, if you wanted to go from New York or Philly to Chicago directly, first you'd have to take the Pennsylvanian all the way out to Pittsburgh, pray the Capital Limited didn't leave you behind, and if you did, you'd have to spend the night there, and then take the Capital all the way to Chicago, or take a regional or any other train to DC and catch the Capital from there. It just seems like too much of a waste of money, waste of time, for all that transferring, compared to a train like the Broadway or the Three Rivers that can just connect you directly, just like that, boom. And also, between Harrisburg and Pittsburgh, there's only one train in each direction that serves those areas, that being the Pennsylvanians 42 and 43, and it's more often than not that those trains are either sold out or nearly full. It's ridiculous at times. So, having the Broadway, I know they're trying to introduce 2 extra sets of Pennsylvanians, where there'd be 2 sets going east and 2 sets going west, instead of just the 1 in each direction. But the Broadway Limited or the Three Rivers, if those were brought back, that would definitely help alleviate the congestion in terms of people piling up on the one Pennsylvanian in each direction, if you know what I mean. It's just what I would do. It's my personal opinion. Void the 3F asks, if you had to give a model railroad advice, what would it be? The main piece of advice that I've learned from the hobby is make sure the curve radius is rated, that, for the locomotive you're buying is compatible with the curves you have. I learned that the hard way when I bought a Bud RDC, a Reading one, DC and all that, because I'd yet to get any DCC equipment. When I took it home and ran it on my layout, I did not realize the curves were a bit too sharp for it to work properly, which was a big disappointment, but you live and learn, I suppose. What is your general favorite type of steam train? I don't know, I really like Pacifics and Consolidations, because they don't get enough love. What is your opinion on Atomic Train? It's a alright movie with a really good premise, but there's a lot of inaccuracies, and I feel like demonizes the railroads a little bit too much, especially at the beginning of the film. Bunny Boy 2005 asks, would you rather visit the Southwest or the Southeast? Probably the Southeast, it'd be easier. Mauricio Ortiz asks, will you eventually make a documentary about an Amtrak Paramarquette rear-ending a Norfolk Southern intermodal, that being 23M? Perhaps in the future. I'd like to know what happened. Who inspired you to make the channel? I was inspired by several people, but the ones you see on screen right now were the main inspirations to create my YouTube channel. What is your favorite YouTube channel? I don't really know if I have a favorite. You know, I like all kinds of like comedy or technical channels, you know, stuff like that, so I can't really choose a favorite. Phantom70 asks, are you interested in doing plane crash documentaries? I think it'd be an interesting concept. I have had the idea of doing videos on Japan Airlines 123 and the Uber Lincoln incident, but let me know if you guys would like to see stuff like that. You know, if you guys would like to see me branch out of my comfort zone. Potato Productions asks, what would you say is your favorite locomotive company? Well, that's a no-brainer. It's the Pennsylvania Railroad. Favorite steam, diesel, and electric locomotives? Well, I already mentioned two of my favorite steam locomotives. So a third one would be the Reading G-Class Pacifics. For diesel, I've already mentioned the GP7s and 9s, so let's go with the GP30s. Yeah, quirky design, but I like them. And as for electrics, well, we already mentioned the GG1, so the next best would be the E60. What crash documentary was the hardest to make for you emotionally? Definitely the UFA incident. I've kind of explained in previous Q&As, but yeah, it was a very emotionally tolling experience, if that makes any sense. Saikra asks, what documentary did you enjoy working on the most? I kind of answered this earlier, but another video I really enjoyed putting together was the Doodlebug disaster. There was a lot of interesting information to unpack when making that video, and the simulation, while not 100% accurate, was pretty stress-free in putting together. Sunstar 5000 asks, who's your favorite Undertale character? I'm sure everybody's expecting me to say Sans because, you know, he's such a mood, he's so relatable to a lot of people, and he's literally the staple with everything in the Undertale fandom. And I do mean everything, including why the community has such a bad reputation with the world. But no, I'm gonna have to go with Azrael or Flowey. Well, actually they're the same character, but whatever. Azrael because of the interesting lore behind him, and Flowey just because he's such a mood, hating everybody, he's just hilarious. And of course you can't forget Papyrus, the innocent bean, who we must protect at all costs, because What is your favorite movie? That would be Runaway Train from 1985. Love the music, love the story, love the acting performances. It's an all-around good stuff. It's all around good stuff. Have you ever rode in the cab of a steam locomotive? And I have on one occasion and one occasion only, ridden in the cab of steam locomotive number 40 at the New Hope Railroad. I even got to ring the bell on her. I have a whole video dedicated to that cab ride, so if you're interested, go check it out. Blaze06 asks, do you think SEPTA should have heritage units? They did have one, the 269, which was a former Pennsylvania Railroad Silverliner 2 that still said Pennsylvania on the side of it. And at one point, thanks to the Philly chapter of the NRHS, got keystones on the front and back that were later stolen. Unfortunately, the unit has long since been scrapped, so they don't have it anymore. Oh well. Will you ever do a history of the Strasburg Railroad? I don't know. I mean, the idea sounds interesting, so we'll see. If any steam and diesel engine could be donated to Strasburg and restored to operational condition, what would it be? Well, it was certainly interesting when they leased that Main Eastern GP9 when, I think it was 8618 was out of service for a rebuild. But in terms of steam, it'd be funny to have 611 donated there since that's the only place you can really run it for profit anymore. I know it'd probably make all the Virginian rail fans cry, but it'd make us Pennsy guys happy. I'm only kidding, but still, it'd be funny. Jet the Hawk 1994 asks, favorite and least favorite pizza toppings? Well, anything meat is good on my pizza, especially this one chicken ranchero pizza I used to get at this restaurant out in Norristown. It was so freaking good. But in terms of worst toppings, you put pineapple on pizza, you're gonna get a freaking paddling. Especially in front of an Italian like me. It's a sin. What's the scariest thing you've ever experienced while driving your car or on a train? Well, I've encountered a lot of crazy experiences from driving because, people in the Northeast can't drive to save their lives. But in terms of train-wise, nothing too alarming. Thoughts on Murder on the Orient Express? It's a pretty interesting story and movie. Rob Stewart asks,
Stop! Who would cross the bridge of death must answer me these questions three. The other side he see.
Ask me the questions, Bridgekeeper. I am not afraid.
thoughts on the G8 AC6000CW? Yeah, maybe trying to squeeze 6,000 horsepower out of a Jiva wasn't really a smart idea. It looks cool, though. What do you think is the most underrated American road switcher? Probably the Baldwin switchers, believe it or not. I mean, yeah, Baldwin wasn't that good at making diesels, don't get me wrong. But in terms of their short line market with a lot of their switchers, they were pretty good because they had a lot of pulling power at slow speed. If you could commission a steam engine from K&L trains, what would it be and why? Believe it or not, it wouldn't be just the Reading G-Class Pacifics or other lesser-known steam. I'd actually commission him to do something like steam engines from the New Hope Railroad. 40, 1533, 9, not 3028, because it never officially ran on New Hope, so cry about it. But the main reason behind it is not just to have them in K&L form, but it's mainly to help up my friend DCRP Secondary, who's a good friend of mine, that's trying to make New Hope Railroad in trains form. I'd mainly commission it just for him, that way he can have authentic K&L models of the engines he's, rendering for that route. And he wouldn't have to do stuff like kit bashing a CN design to make it look like 1533, or one of the Eagle River consolidations to look like 40. Oh, and if you want to check out the route as well as his channel in general, there's links down below in the description.
Right, off you go.
Oh, thank you.
Railfan Xander asks, Mikado or Northern? I know one of my favorites is a Northern, but I'm going to have to go with Mikado because nobody gives them enough love. If you had to revive a dead railroad, what would it be? The good old Pennsylvania Railroad. You should know why. Eastern or Western railroads? Eastern, hands down. Carl Daster asks, where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
Don't say doing your wife. Don't say doing your wife. Don't say doing your wife. Doing your son?
Nah, I'm only kidding. I'd probably be married with kids of my own at some point. I don't really know. As well as having a full-time job, I guess. Have you ever been plane spotting? Not officially, but I do like to go to World War II weekend to check out all the aircraft down there. I'm pretty rubbish at filming planes, to be honest with you, but let me know if you guys would like to see some of that footage. NWP asks, have you ever seen CNJ 113? Every time that engine runs, I can't see it for whatever given reason, and it freaking drives me nuts. One day, though, hopefully before it's due for another 1472, excuse me. Can you do a documentary on the 1977 Chicago Loop incident? Maybe in the future. Do you ever think SEPTA should run the Pottsville line again? Nah, it's fine under Reading and Northern. Old Seawitch asks, would you do a documentary on the B&O Roundhouse collapse of 2003? Well, we already have that one. And the Santiago de Compostela high-speed train disaster of 2013? Definitely put a pin on that one. Do you ever watch any train-themed anime? And if you do, could you recommend me it? Not really. I mean, there was that one episode in not My Hero Academia, Demon Slayer, that was centered around a train. But it was kind of a mess to watch, if I'm honest. And I've heard of Galaxy Railways, but I haven't seen it myself, so I can't really say anything about it. Would you ever consider doing a collab with someone like Train of Thought? I have technically done collabs with people like Train Guru and Ryan's Colorado Rail Productions, so I'd like to do that again. It's a lot of fun. Bitchin' Barn Finds asks, what are your thoughts on Norfolk Southern and their accident history? The thoroughbred stupidity just get worse and worse every year. What are your thoughts on the Pennsylvania Railroad T1? A very, very underrated duplex. Andrew Raila Bammers asks, favorite steam locomotive manufacturer in America? Good old Baldwin Locomotive Works as far as I'm concerned. Favorite Canadian steam locomotive? Probably the Royal Hudson class. Favorite diesel locomotive? Well, I already mentioned two of them, the GP30 and the GP7 and 9, so another favorite will be the U34CH. Yeah, that's right, a GE design. Funny, huh? Yo Mikai Animator asks, you ever explore any excursion railroads such as Baltimore, Ohio, Wilmington and Western, or Strasburg? Of course I do. I even work at two of them, those being New Hope and Culperdale. I definitely need to revisit the Wilmington and Western, though. I haven't been there in forever. Isaiah Marchington asks, have you ever owned any Lego train sets? I did once upon a time, but I don't know if I still have them anymore. Do you plan to make an Engines of Pennsylvania Railroad series? I have hinted at making one at one point, so yeah, stay tuned. It'll maybe come out in the future, I don't know. Railfan K Train Productions asks, what's your favorite train wreck documentary that you enjoy making? I kind of answered this question already earlier, but another favorite of mine that was had a lot of fun putting together, at least from a production standpoint, is the Nipizzikit video. I mean, yeah, I know I mispronounced it as Nipizziguit, but I've since learned that the correct pronunciation is Nipizzikit. What are your thoughts and opinions on Penn Central? One of the worst mistakes of railroad history. Second only to PSR. How did you feel when you reached 100,000 subscribers? I can't really explain the feeling, but it was just so freaking surreal to finally hit the big 100,000. I mean, I didn't think I'd get past like 50,000, but yet, here we are. Not Telling asked, do you have any interest in vehicles other than trains? Apart from airplanes? Not really. Do you have a favorite Deltarune character, and who is it? Of course I do. That's Ralsei. We must protect him at all costs. He's such an innocent bean. Do you have any favorite non-American locomotives? Quite a few, such as the LNER A3 Pacifics, the Intercity 125s, and the Southern Railway Q1 class, or British Rail Q1, whatever. Yeah, I know it's an odd choice, but they kind of look cool in my books. NNW Guy 475 and NNW Challenger 433 asks, what is your opinion on the Southern Longbell 3 chime? A very haunting, but epic sounding 3 chime. What Southeast state would you railfan in? Probably Florida. Pennsy Black or Brunswick Green? They're the same thing. There's no such thing as Pennsy Black. Yeah, it looks black, but it's still Brunswick Green. A more dark shade of it, if you will. Elijah Stevenson asks, how old are you when you fell in love with Thomas and Friends? Ever since I was a little kid, like 1 or 2 years old. Who is your favorite engine in Thomas and Friends? Well, I already mentioned James earlier, so another favorite would be Gordon. What is your favorite class of steam engine in the world? That is the good old Pennsylvania Railroad K4 Pacific. But if I had to choose yet another favorite, it'd be the M1 class, if I didn't mention that already, which I probably did. Andrew Johnson asks, have you ever tried riding other subways like DC Metro or New York City subway? Now I'm going to get this out of the way. I am not that into subways as most people are. But considering the history behind the New York City subways, maybe. Thunderbolt Siren Studios asks, if you have the name of a siren, why is your content mostly of trains? That's actually a very good question. When I created the channel, I was still big into sirens, but over time I started to lose interest and I didn't really care. I mean, I'm still into the, community, don't get me wrong, but it's just not a priority. But when I started getting more well known on YouTube, the name stuck, and to be honest, I'm too lazy to change it. Tunnel Train 96 asks, have you ever filmed any sirens outside of PA? Nope, not yet. Trolleys, tracks or trackless? Tracks. Trackless trolleys are just glorified electric buses. You ever heard of R.J. Corman Railroad? I have, and I've heard mixed opinions about them. Keegan Stevens asks, what do you think of NS reactivating their SD70M-2s? Well, it's about time they realized putting so many of their engines in storage was not going to help their power shortage situation. Be great to see them again, as I haven't seen them in my area since like 2019 or so. Have you ever heard or been to Lindale, Georgia? Nope. Did you hear about the wreck in Rome, Georgia back in September? Somewhat. NG5 asks, you plan on doing the new train crash documentaries and are remastering old ones? As stated earlier, I have. Stay tuned. Have you ever considered doing a video on funeral trains if you haven't done so already? I actually have. I only caught one funeral train though, the SEPTA 8M7 funeral train, but if I see more, I might upload them. Do you think British Rail was dumb making all those botched prototypes and still thought they could pull things off? Well, I mean, everybody has their trials and errors, and it could happen on any company, so you can't really blame them too much for that. Trainman3985 asks, what or who inspired you to become a YouTuber? As stated earlier, I was inspired by a bunch of different people. I kind of already answered that earlier. Of all the rec documentaries you made, which is your favorite, which is your least favorite? Well, I've already answered what my favorites were, but my least favorite have to be the original Silverliner Fire video. If you had the misfortune of seeing it, oh, it was terrible. It was more personal and opinionated than it was informative. It was bad. And no, I am not going to re-upload it. It just sucks so bad. It's not even worth it. PC SPSF, one stays. SPSF, I mean, you shouldn't paint so fast, but hey, it's a better idea than forcing two polar opposite companies together in the form of Penn Central. Ugh. Evan F1293 asks, what do you have planned for the future of your channel? I don't know, to keep it growing as far as I can. Do you plan on seeing Reading 2100 when it's operational? Absolutely. Why do you like SEPTA so much? I mean, my likeness towards SEPTA has been slipping recently, especially thanks to PennDOT Lady. But I grew up around SEPTA, so there's still that little charm with them. The guy Amert93 asks, ever thought of doing documentaries on Abbott's Ripton? If I find information about it, maybe. Bryn Mawr? Bryn Mawr had a train wreck? Are you sure it's not the PA Bryn Mawr? I'll have to look that up. Wreck of Old 97? Oh yeah, I've been requested that a lot, so stay tuned. What are your thoughts on the KOP rail extension? I mean, it's a great idea. I mean, a lot of people didn't like it, saying it was the worst idea in transit history. I mean, anything to reduce KOP traffic is welcome in my books. Sincerely, someone who lives in that area. But my only complaint is the sinkhole problem that KOP has, especially around King Manor. That'd have to be addressed. But yeah, it's been canceled, so not really much else to say about it. Do you have any pointers for a person like me who's a noob at rail fanning? Not much, except get a scanner or download Broadcastify to look up the radio feeds and just rely on that for where train movements are. That's really all I can say. Lego Meister 14 asks, can you show us your Lego train collection at some point soon? I don't even know if I still have them, so I don't know if I can make a video on that. Do you plan on doing anything special for Flying Scotsman's 100th birthday? Well, considering how this is being taped a full month ago, yeah, probably not. Oh well. Who is your favorite character from Sonic the Hedgehog? Definitely Tails. Good gosh, I have a thing for innocent characters. I don't know if that's concerning or not. WT Gaming asks, what is your favorite Metro loco? Probably the Viewliners. Not viewliners. Highliners, excuse me. The hell was I thinking? Sean Bodline asks, I got 2 questions. Do you think someone else should have built a replacement for the Acela instead of Alstom? I mean, don't get me wrong, Alstom makes some good stuff, but considering using a TGV clone as the replacement, no. What are your thoughts on Susquehanna Mikado 142? It's an alright engine, I guess. Speedvan asks, do you think automatic train control is equivalent to a sentient train like Thomas the Tank Engine? There's a difference between sentient and computerized. What is your opinion on all engines go? I don't want to talk about that pile of scrap metal. What was a locomotive that you see in real life but was eventually scrapped? I don't know. The only thing I can think of is the ATM-7s and some of the old NS power you don't see anymore, like the Dash 8s. Automatic asks, what's a wreck documentary you'd like to talk about, but there isn't enough information on it? The big one is freaking Murdoch. All the info I find on that incident is just about the explosion and nothing else. I mean, all I know train-wise is it was a B&O train, it derailed. The only new piece of info I found was that it was, a local with 1 engine and 8 cars. I mean, I would assume it was a local if it was that short, but that was it. Nothing about, what happened, how did it derail, and, stuff like that. That was it. That was all I found out. It was ridiculous. I really want to make a video on it, but I seriously can't without the information. If you had the ability to preserve a locomotive, what type would you choose? Like I said, either the Reading G-Class, Western Maryland Potomacs, but another example would be probably an NNW Y6B. What was your favorite train wreck documentary you've done so far? Well, another favorite of mine would be the Hinton incident, even though I want to remaster that at some point. CFX Railfan Brony 4449 Chessie Daylight asks, what were your favorite railroads? Opinions, history, famous for? Well, Pennsy because of the way they approached their steam locomotive design, the Reading because they were all over the place in my home area, and the Chessie because cat. No, but seriously, they have an interesting history behind them as well in terms of their operations. What were your best moments in the year of 2022? Anything related to 2102 and my Altoona trip that I do every year up there. The 2022 venture up there was pretty cool. What were your most favorite diesel, steam, and electric locomotives? Well, here we go again. Another favorite diesel of mine would be the SD40-2. What a surprise. For steam, we'll go with the... I think I'll go with the Norfolk and Western A. And for electrics, the AEM-7. There you go. The Early Burf asks, what are your thoughts on the SD40-2? Oh, speaking of which, they're basically an engineer's engine. You task it on something, it'll do it. It is that dependable of a locomotive. What are your thoughts on the DD40AX series? Do you believe they could have been really successful? Of course they were successful. What are you talking about? I mean, first of all, they introduced the EMD 645 series, and the X in their denote not only introduced the 645, but it also introduced that microprocessing system to troubleshoot errors that you find on almost every modern locomotive today. They were the DD40X was the first to pioneer that. It's also why EMD led in the horsepower race during their Dash 2 program, which made them really their already great engines even better. I mean, come on. They were also the only superpower locomotive I can think of on Union Pacific that was actually decently successful compared to everything else that just died within a couple of years. If you were to revive a Big 3 railroad East Coast from back then, what would you revive and why? Definitely the Pennsylvania Railroad. You should already know why. North Penn Valley Steam Railroad has a very simple question. How are you, bro? Been hanging in there, appreciating the warm weather for once, but it keeps going from 60 to 30 like it saw a state trooper. BD asks, do you think BC Rail will come back? Nope, not really. Do you like Among Us? No. Atlantic City Line Railfan asks, You ever plan on going on South Jersey to go film trains? There's a lot of unique rail operations down here. Oh, absolutely. It's been on my bucket list for a while. One of my friends just recently went to like Ho-Ho-Kiss and places like that to rail fan. So, yeah, I'll definitely pop over there one day. You have plans to live stream with StreamYard? Probably not. I feel alright with Streamlabs OBS so far. Do you plan on making an episode covering a BNSF train crash? Yes, and I think it's no surprise on what it would be. Maybe as a collaboration with Ryan's Colorado, since it's his most famous video. I don't know. MBTA 1234 asks, what are your thoughts on the new Grand Central Madison opening? It's definitely a very, very welcoming change. Can you do a documentary on an MBTA derailment or crash? If you could specify, that would help. I already technically did one with the Back Bay incident. Which is better, pantographs or third rail shoes? Well, they both have their advantages and disadvantages. Third rail shoes, you know, they're low to the ground, so they're not as susceptible to trees. But they're, actually no, technically they're still susceptible because, you know, the line would be blocked. But it wouldn't rip out, you wouldn't have to rewire you wouldn't have to rewire everything to get it to work again. You know what? They both have their advantages and disadvantages, which are pretty much similar. I don't know. I think I'm more used to pantographs, so I'm just gonna go with them. Ethan Strode asks, are you planning on doing a steam locomotive documentary series? I technically was gonna do something similar, since I was hinting at that 611 video, which I don't even know if I'm ever gonna finish, because I have to rewrite the script. But, we'll see. What do you think of the new Amtrak IRO? I hate that thing. Have you ever been on any Amtrak trains? I've been on a couple Keystones, a regional here and there, and a Nacella. But as for long distance, nope, not yet. James Martinez 101 asks, if you have a favorite SEPTA EMU/locomotive, what would it be? That would be the Silverliner 4s. Are you going to film the newly built PRRT1 locomotive once it's finished? Oh, definitely. That one guy 655 asks, what is your favorite Class 3 short line? Probably Pennsylvania Northeastern. What is your favorite heritage unit on any railroad in North America? That would be NS 8102, the Pennsylvania Railroad one. I shouldn't have to say why. Aruto Burritio asks, do you think the Thomas Friends pilot will release on the 80th anniversary? Likely not, but I hope. Do you think another merger like Penn Central could happen if the railroad begin to decline again? Hopefully not. If you had to choose one engine of an Alco or Fairbanks Morse locomotive class, which one would you pick? Probably the Alco C420s or 424s. SP786 Fanboy asks, would you do an Engines of the Reading series? That's actually a really good idea. I don't think anybody's talked about the Reading steam yet, or Reading engines in general. Do you watch any Scooby-Doo cartoons or movies? Long ago, yes. I used to watch the cartoons a lot as a kid. As for the movies, they were alright here and there. And as for that pile of steaming horse crap called Velma, we do not talk about that racist pile of garbage. Are you friends with Train Guru? I asked because I watched his 30-Day Miracle video and I noticed you helped narrate it. Yeah, actually, we're actually pretty good friends, and not only did I help him with that 30-Day Miracle video, and it won't be the last video I help out with him, but also he designed my current YouTube logo that you see right now. So, as I gotta say, thank you so much, Train Guru. You've definitely given me an identity I can relate to now. At least, you know, one that looks unique compared to using a random 1361 photo that, you know, I forget where I got it from. Speaking of Train Guru, hey, here's some of his questions. Which now abandoned railroad would you like to see resurrected? I have heard the Pennsylvania Railroad Schuylkill division from Oaks to Phoenixville is possibly going to get a facelift, and if they do, I am going to be all for it. So, yeah, I'd choose that one. What is your most valuable model train and why? At the moment, it's my Reading Rambles T1 2102 from Broadway Limited. You touch that thing and your hand comes off. Do you have any railroad memorabilia that makes you laugh or chuckle? At the moment, not really, but I do have a Penn Central trainman cap that I swapped for the badge for a Pennsylvania Railroad one because Penn Central is such a freaking pile of horse crap. So there's that, I guess. James Lee asks, if you were brought back an extinct steam locomotive, which one would it be? Ooh, geez, we're really tightening up the choices now. Maybe a Reading Mallet. Surprised nobody saved one of those, or a Western Maryland Challenger. Favorite steam locomotive in operation today? At the moment, that is Reading 2102. If you were to go railfan anywhere outside of Pennsylvania, where would it be? One bucket list location I really want to do is places like Hohokus in New Jersey, or places like places around the Baltimore area, I guess, that I haven't hit before, that are safe. I don't know. I'm Larry asks, were there any railroad-related moments in 2022 that were worse than 475's crash as far as you're concerned? I'm sure the plethora of other more severe derailments, especially East Palestine, were a lot more severe than just 475's little fist fight with a frickin' backhoe. Any luck in finding info on the Murdoch, Illinois explosion since your previous Q&A? As stated earlier, no. What do you think of the US Sugar Steam Fleet? They're alright, they look pretty cool. Dan the Knife Ferret and Big E asks, do you like anime? To an extent, yeah. I like anime. Quite a bit. Sharksman20 asks, do you have a favorite heritage unit? Well, I already mentioned 8102, so another favorite is NS 1067, the Reading Ace. Sounds pretty funny. Why is the Pennsylvania Railroad your favorite? Well, mainly it's due to their unique design of their steam locomotives, right down to their Belpaire fireboxes, which was a Belgian design made quite popular by the British. So, the only other railroad I knew of that had Belpaire fireboxes en masse was the Great Northern, so it makes the Pennsy all the more special. And of course, their electric fleet was also out of this world, and as most of the Pennsylvania Railroad electrified main line is still operable as of today under Amtrak. And finally, out of all the Class 1 railroads in the US, which one is your favorite? If we're talking modern day, you know what? I don't have a favorite. They're all falling apart. Well, Florida East Coast I think counts as a Class 1, so everybody likes them, so maybe them. BC Rail Productions asks, will you ever do a train series? Funny you should ask that. I have had this idea long ago of doing a series called like Northeast Corridor Tales when I was really, really young. It was going to be like sort of similar to the Full Buccaneers, but considering all the work, pain, and suffering that you'd have to do to make one of those series, I don't think I'm going to bother. Philadelphia Area Rail and Fire Buff asks, ALP 44 or AEM 7? AEM 7. SD 70 or ES 44 AC? SD 70. Have you ever tried fire buffing? Filming responding fire trucks? Not really. Bricklover 844 asks, would you want to travel to an overseas country, at least to see what the trains they have to offer, or would it be too expensive? Oh, absolutely. I am going to Italy at some point in June, mainly to see one of my cousins get married, but if I can sneak in some rail fanning during that time, I might, all the way in Italia. And as for the UK, there's too many opportunities for rail fanning out there, just holy crap. And I also have family in the UK as well, so there's that bonus. And I'd also would want to visit Russia as well. Okay, yes, I'm not gonna say anything about the current events going on with that country right now. But I also have a cousin up there, and they have a lot of interesting history, from the trains they use to obviously all the Soviet tanks they have on display, since I have a very, very keen interest in World War II on the Eastern Front. American Trains and Elevators asks, can you please do Engines of New Jersey Transit? Probably not. Somebody else does a much better job with an Engines of NJT and has already released a bunch of episodes. Go check them out. Groggy Water 06 asks, what is your favorite color of the alphabet? Mine's 4. Are you okay? CN Trainman 5762 asks, what do you think of Thomas the Magic Railroad? It really screwed up the public's view on Thomas and Friends, but I mean, there were some aspects that were alright. I know the chugging sound effect they used has been pretty cool. Red Arrow 10185 Personal asks, what do you have planned for this year? Like I said, just growing the channel as far as I can and entering new territory with content. Have you ever seen the other series made by Thomas's creator, Tugs? Yes, I love Tugs. I've always found that show so fascinating and freaking hilarious. And I also love all the accents, you know, that all the characters have, and Top Hat is just a freaking riot.
I couldn't have put it better myself.
Will you ever come over to the UK or other countries to make some videos about their railways? An earlier question has already answered this. Doge Pro asks, at what age did you join YouTube? Believe it or not, at age 13. What's the music you used in the vid Memory of American Steam? It's this track right here. When do you think you will reach 1 million subs? I don't even know if I'll ever make it, but I made it to 100,000 subs, so I'll just shut up. Hopefully in the future. Redding Rails asks, oh, it's my buddy Andrew. What were your top 3 catches from last year? Probably the 2102 freight runs for a start. That executive unit that came through on top of the Santa Fe war bonnets. And maybe that, I don't know what I would choose for a third one. I really don't know. Have you ever seen a derailment happen while you've been rail fanning? Fortunately, no. What's the closest call you've seen out of all the times you went to the tracks? I did catch this one drunk, fast asleep, almost get hit by a Norfolk Southern train, but I don't think I'll ever release that video because it's left a pretty bad scar in my head. I mean, the guy survived, don't get me wrong, but seeing my worst fear almost come true in front of my eyes was just a really, really sobering experience. The Carolinian Rail fan asks, any thoughts of the Norfolk Southern derailment in East Palestine, Ohio? I did get interviewed by WFMZ 69 about that incident. Check out the video. But since I wasn't thinking about making a video on it, but ever since I got interviewed by the news, hey, whenever the NTSB final report is released, I might make a video. If you were to travel to the west coast of the US, which railroads would you visit? Probably the Pacific Southwest Railroad Museum, or whatever it's called. Are you planning to visit the East Broadtop Railroad in the future? Oh, absolutely. That is a big bucket list now. So stay tuned. Fire Cynical asks, do you play an instrument, and if so, what? Not really. I did take keyboard lessons back when I was in like middle school, but I eventually stopped due to extreme boredom. In fact, it got to the point where during class, when we were supposed to be doing other assignments with the keyboards, I'd be just sitting there in the corner trying to recreate siren synths with the pitch variation lever on the side. Yeah, I got bored pretty easily. Eastern Rail Productions asks, will there be a schedule for train wrecks and documentaries? I try to stick to at least once a month. But at this point, it's going to be like once every a couple of months, and it's going to get worse schedule-wise down the road in terms of like work and stuff like that. Jim Aviation asks, will you cover the East Palestine wreck after they clean it up? Definitely once the final report is released, as well as mention the news interview I had. What videos are you planning to do in the future? Please refer to earlier in the video. Ice cream, yes or no? That is a big yes, especially considering I get all my ice cream from the local place called Zwollen's Ice Cream & Co., which is not only the ice cream place that my girlfriend's family owns and the one she works at, but they're just a class act. I mean, yeah, to be honest, they make some of the best ice cream in the world. Change my mind. So if you're ever in the Montgomery County area, like in Valley Forge, definitely go check them out. Tell them Thunder sent you. They'll know. They'll probably know.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the f*** is that?
I know I said the limit was 3 questions per comment, but I mean, this is like freaking 12 of them. Holy crap. What were you thinking, Amity Blighted SP4449 fan? You know what? Screw it. Just for going above and beyond with the number of questions. What the hell? Let's see if we can get them all in a rapid fire. You know what? You ready? Here we go. What are your thoughts on Canadian Pacific 2816 touring Calgary, Alberta to Mexico City, Mexico? Would you like to go there if you actually have plans? I don't know, but it'd be really cool to see. What are your opinions on History of the Dark? I like that guy. He makes a really nice content. I'd like to collab with him in the future. Which tourist would you like to see in the not too distant future? Well, East Broadtop for a start. Opinions on My Life as a Teenage Robot. Haven't seen that show. Danny Phantom. Haven't seen it. Kim Possible. It's alright. Chowder. Not a fan. Phineas and Ferb. Love that show. One of my favorites. Adventure Time. Not a fan. Regular show. It's alright. Gravity Falls. Love that show. Steven Universe. It's a meh. Amazing World of Gumball. It's alright. Any thoughts on Canadian National 6060? Kind of a bizarre design if I say so myself. I'm gonna use TikTok. Not that much. I hate that platform, but I still like to go on there anyway, just for some silly videos. What other new build Steam logo should be selected beside the Pennsylvania Road T1? Maybe a New York Central Huntington. I know I'm not a fan of New York Central, but it'd be nice to see one rebuild anyway. And probably a Reading G-Class Pacific or Western Maryland Potomac. What are your opinions on Jim Vandercook? I'm not a fan of him. Overpowered Steam Productions. He's alright. Andrew Raila Bammers. He's alright. And Penzi Productions. I like that guy. What is the worst train in the entire world you can think of? Well, I don't know, but the one locomotive I absolutely hate is the Royal Liberty. Which steam locomotive are you looking forward to see return to service in Canada? If you actually go there. I don't know, but it'd be really nice to see some more Canadian steam over there. What are your thoughts on the USSR AA-24144? It is so freaking Soviet, you couldn't even try. Would you plan on going to the UK to see trains in the not too distant future? Well, definitely as me to see the Intercity 125s and see my family that live there. Wow, did I get all of them? And well, on that note, I think that's where we're gonna cut it for now. I know I only went through like a third of the comments that were put in that video, but don't worry, there's always next time, whenever that'll be. So, hope you enjoyed, maybe learned something new about me. We'll see you next time.